Hello again, good day to everyone. Welcome to another episode on Question, Answers, and Why. And ang subject natin ngayon is soil science. Let's start with question number one. Once a soil has been placed under cultivation, its organic matter content usually increases, decreases, remains relatively unchanged, or all of the above. So ano daw yung mangyayari sa organic matter ng soil kapag na-cultivate yung ating soil? Yun yung tanong. Tataas ba, bababa, or walang pagbabago? So given that A, B, and C, magkakaibang sagot yan, right? Hindi naman yan pare-parehas. Therefore, yung ating all of the above, mali na. Kasi hindi naman pare-parehas yung meaning. Actually, magkakaiba and opposite yung meaning ng mga choices na to. So we are going to eliminate letter D now, all of the above. So actually, the answer for this question is that when a soil is being cultivated, yung ating organic matter is usually bumababa. Hindi tumataas, hindi walang pagbabago, kundi bumababa. So bakit? To answer that question, unahin muna nating sagutin, ano ba kasi ang organic matter? Again, inuulit-ulit ko na to, ang organic matter is basically yung plant and animal residues natin na nasa soil that is being decomposed by organisms doon sa ating soils. So it plays a critical role in soil health. Ano yung role ng organic matter sa soil? Una, it enhances water retention. Pangalawa, it provides nutrients to your plants such as carbon, which is very important for your plant. It improves soil structure. So kapag masyadong sandy yung lupa mo, lagyan mo yan ng organic matter, gaganda yung structure niya. So magiging compact siya, and the other way around as well. And at the same time, it supports a diverse and active soil microbial population, which is also helpful in giving nutrients sa yung halaman. So pag mas marami kang organismo doon sa ating soil, yung mga organisms na yon would decompose a lot of organic matter and minerals and nutrients na gagamitin ng halaman mo sa kanyang paglaki. Now, question, bakit bumababa ang organic matter kapag ang iyong lupa ay nakukultivate? Okay? Ano ba kasi yung cultivation? Cultivation is you turn you turn you till your land, di ba? Gagamit ka ng tiller, gagamit ka ng machine, ng tractor, para halukayin yung lupa mo para mas maging pino siya. That's cultivation. Bakit bumababa ang organic matter kapag kinukultivate natin yung lupa? Una is because of increased decomposition. So what happened is, when your soil is cultivated, so ibig sabihin yung lupa na yan, iniikot mo siya, so yung mga lupa na nasa ilalim pupunta sa taas. Basically, you're mixing your soil. Yung process na to exposes now yung soil organic matter to the environment or to your atmosphere. And kapag na-expose yung organic matter mo na yan, yung mga aerobic microorganisms mo, i-decompose nila ng mas mabilis kasi nga na-expose na basically sa environment, so may air na, may oxygen na, so yung aerobic microorganisms mo, they will be decomposing yung ating organic matter. And when they do that in a faster rate, yung carbon or yung napoproduce na molecule ng ating organic matter through the decomposition of aerobic microorganisms, hindi napupunta sa lupa, but rather napupunta sa atmosphere. Kaya naman, increased decomposition can actually decrease yung organic matter natin if we put it if we let the soil under cultivation. Now, hindi ko sinasabing masama na i-cultivate ang soil kasi mas mataas yung advantage ang pag-cultivate ng soil kaysa sa hindi pag-cultivate. What I'm just saying here is that when you cultivate your soil, nagdi-decrease yung organic matter content because of these mechanisms. And that is number one, increase decomposition. Pangalawa, nare-reduce kasi yung organic matter dun sa ating soil. Kasi 'di ba, kapag nagla-land prep ka, ang una-una mong gagawin diyan is lilinisin mo yung lupa. Kumbaga, aalisin mo yung mga plant and animal debris na source ng iyong organic matter. So when you do land preparation, not unless kapag green manuring yan, no, na ginabyon mo na or isinama mo sa cultivation, kumbaga yung mga weeds na nandun, so not unless yun yung pinag-uusapan, basically what you do, you clean the land and nawawala na ngayon yung mga plant and animal debris that would nadadagdag sana sa yung organic matter content. So when you till the land, when you cultivate your land, nare-reduce yung organic material na nasa lupain mo, kaya naman nare-reduce yung ating organic matter. Number 3 reason is because of soil erosion. When you cultivate your land, what happens is yung soil structure natin medyo maglulusen siya. Right? So mas magiging granular. So hindi na siya ganun kadikit. So making it, kapag naging granular siya, mas basically mas less compacted na yung soil mo, mas prone na ngayon siya sa soil erosion. So soil erosion by wind and soil erosion by water. And kapag na-erode yan, mostly ang kinukuha niyang soil erosion naman kapag na-cultivate na yung land mo is yung top layer part ng iyong soil. So yung top layer part ng iyong soil kasi is mayaman sa organic matter. So kapag nagkaroon ng soil erosion due to cultivation, nawa-wipe out pa unti-unti yung top part ng soil mo that contains most of the organic matter. That is why bumababa ang organic matter under cultivation. Now again, kaklaruhin ko lang ulit. I am not saying here na hindi maganda ang cultivation. In fact, cultivation is a common practice noon pa nung nagsimula tayong mag-farming as a humanity. What I'm just saying here is ano ba yung effect ng cultivation sa organic matter. So when you cultivate your land, what happens is organic matter usually decreases. Number 2 question. A kind of soil erosion in which yung soil particles daw are removed in a more or less uniform depth. Ang tawag ba doon ay rill erosion, gully erosion, sheet erosion, or stream bank erosion. So we're looking at types of soil erosion. Now on this particular type daw of soil erosion, yung ating soil particles are removed they are removed uniformly. So in this type of soil erosion, the soil particles are removed uniformly in terms of its depth. So kumbaga, what do you call this? Kumbaga the process is uniform. Paunti-unti yung erosion. So wala kang mapapansin na one part ng soil area mo, malalim yung erosion, one part ng other soil area mo, hindi ganun kalalim. So walang ganun. So walang presence of any difference between the depthness of the erosion. So kumbaga uniform lang, pantay-pantay. Ang tawag sa soil erosion na yon is sheet erosion. So unahin natin, ano ba kasi ang konsepto ng sheet erosion? Ang sheet erosion, yan ay isang type of soil erosion kung saan yung topmost thin layers ng soil mo, yan yung nare-remove, then yung naaalis, yung topmost na yan yung naaalis ng paunti-unti. So gradual loss of soil. Bakit? Because water spreads out evenly. So sa proseso ng sheet erosion, subtle and medyo mahirap pansinin na na-erode na yung lupa kasi wala namang any obvious sign na may channel or may depression or may parang hukay that was caused by soil erosion. So again, soil erosion, uniform layer ng soil yung naaalis ng paunti-unti, either through the action of rainfall and wind. So it is characterized by gradual lang, so mabagal lang yung pagkawala ng lupa and different siya sa other types of erosion na pag-uusapan natin mamaya. So mostly, nangyayari ang sheet erosion dahil walang halaman that covers the land. So basically kasi direct, kumbaga, yung ulan natatama sa lupa and direct rin yung hangin na mag-aalis ng mga soil mo, yung mga surface soil mo sa area na ito. So kapag ganun yung area mo, prone siya sa sheet erosion. Ano yung mga other types of erosion na different from sheet erosion? So the first one would be rill erosion. So this type of erosion, nagkakaroon ng small channels. Ito. So mapapansin natin may small channels and ang tawag natin doon sa small channels na yan ay rills. Okay? So yung dyan nangyayari mostly yung ating soil erosion. So rill erosion occurs kapag may mga water concentrates basically na dumadaan and sinisira niya yung kanyang pathway. So unlike sheet erosion, ang rill erosion mas localized siya sa kung ano yung parts ng lupa na may erode and at the same time may obvious sign of small channels as compared to sheet erosion. Now, yung rill erosion, palakihin natin. So, kung ang rill erosion, small channels lang, how about big channels? Ang tawag naman natin doon ay gully erosion. So, kung papansinin natin, large and deeper yung channels that is being severely affected by erosion. So, oftentimes, nangyayari ito sa mga areas kung saan masyadong concentrated yung water runoff. So, kapag umulan, dito mostly dumadaan yung tubig. Kaya naman nagkakaroon ng several meters of deep erosion on that particular aspect of your land. So that's gully erosion. Ano naman yung stream bank erosion? Stream bank erosion is the erosion that happens sa lupa mo na alongside or katabi ng isang river. So itong erosion na to, it is caused by the action of the river na nagfo-flow. So ito yung river natin, yan yung lupa. So kapag tumaas yung tubig na yan, say here, yung action ng tubig na dumadaan dyan, that is causing the erosion. Ang tawag mo sa erosion na yan, stream bank erosion. Okay. Next question. Nitrogen is the most limiting element in crop protection except for legumes. So, nagbigay siya ng fact doon. Ang nitrogen daw, isa yan sa mga nutrients na limitado sa mga halaman except for legumes. And then, nagbigay siya ng question. Ito yung question. The available form of nitrogen is, so ano daw yung form ng nitrogen na available sa iyong halaman? Is it nitrogen in the form of organic matter? Is it in the form of nitrate, the form of ammonium, or both B and C? So to answer this question, we need to understand ano ba yung mga different forms of nitrogen for plants. So una-una, nitrogen can be provided by your organic matter. Or nitrogen can be in the form of organic nitrogen. Itong nitrogen na to, they are found in plants and animal residues. Kasi nga, ang organic matter natin is found in plant and animal residues. And yung plant and animal residues na yun, usually may component siya ng nitrogen. The problem with organic matter or organic nitrogen is that it cannot be used by plants directly. Kailangan matransform siya into other forms, and that process is called mineralization para magamit ngayon ng halaman mo yung nitrogen na galing sa organic matter. So, unahin natin yung ammonium. Ammonium, through the process of ammonification, ang gagawin niya is yung ating organic form of nitrogen, i-convert niya into ammonia through a process of ammonification. So, itong ammonium na to ay isa sa mga forms of nitrogen na pwedeng kainin or pwedeng i-absorb ng plant roots and ng iyong halaman. How about nitrate? Is that also a form na pwedeng magamit directly by your plants? Yes. Nitrate is another inorganic form of nitrogen that plants can readily absorb and utilize. So, ang ginagawa naman ni nitrate, it is either converting organic nitrogen or mostly ammonium, and kino-convert niya yung ammonium into nitrate through a process of what we call as nitrification. So kapag nagkaroon ng nitrification, yung ammonium is converted into nitrate and itong nitrate na to ay readily rin pwedeng magamit ng iyong halaman. So, given that organic matter is not a form of nitrogen for plants na magagamit niya directly, ang sagot natin is supposedly either ammonium or nitrate. And sa question na to, may sagot naman that encompasses yung dalawa, which is letter D, B, and C. So the available form of nitrogen for plants is either nitrate or ammonium. Again, ammonium is formed through the process of ammonification of organic matter. Nitrate naman through the process of nitrification of ammonium. So letter D, both B and C is the right answer. Let's move with question number 4. A problem in soil that is usually found in mining areas is characterized by excessive amount of heavy metals. So ano daw yung tawag doon sa problema sa soil that is usually found in mining areas, and yung pinaka-characteristic niya is that yung soil na to ay may excessive amount of heavy metals. Ang tawag ba doon is letter A, mine tailing affected soil, peat, saline or saline-sodic soils. Now, it's very obvious, kung yan ay mining area, yun yung ating keyword, then it follows na letter A, yan yung pinakatamang sagot. Mine tailing affected soils. So, kapag kasi yung lupa natin ay nasa minahan, more than likely, yung process kasi ng pagmimina, nagpo-produce tayo ng maraming chemicals dyan, kaya naman yung lupa rin natin magkakaroon ng excessive amount of heavy metals. Okay? So, heavy metals such as iron, lead, zinc, copper, and arsenic matatagpuan dyan sa mga mine tailing affected soils. Ano naman yung peat na nasa choice kanina? Peat, yan yung soils natin that are formed kapag masyadong nafa-flood yung ating area or waterlogged conditions. So in peat soil conditions, yung organic matter natin nagbi-build up dyan. So mayaman sa organic matter to, basically because mas mabagal yung decomposition pero mabilis yung accumulation ng organic matter. So dahil nga masyadong basa or flooded yung area, mabagal yung process of decomposing your organic matter, but at the same time mabilis yung process ng or your organic matter being accumulated in this area. So these are peat soils. Ano naman ang ibig sabihin natin when we say that your soil is saline or saline soils? When your soil is a saline soil, mataas ang concentration ng salts. And what do I mean by salt? Baka isipin nyo yung asin na nasa kusina nyo. Salts, sa usapin ng soil science, yan yung mga mineral compounds that is being dissolved in water. So this can be in various forms. And yung presensya ng mga salts na to can affect plant growth and soil health. So ano yung mga examples ng salts? So pinaka-common of course yung common table salt natin. Sodium chloride, calcium carbonate, magnesium sulfate, sodium sulfate. So all of these are forms of salt na kapag napabayaan sa lupa natin, so yan, kung mapapansin nyo, may mga whitish chemicals or whitish substance kayong mapapansin sa soil na to, yan yung salt. Kapag mataas yung concentration ng salt sa yung lupa, nakakasama rin ito sa yung halaman. So mostly, ang mga saline soils kasi, nakikita yan or they are typically found doon sa mga drier areas or yung mga areas na masyadong mataas yung evaporation. Kapag masyadong mataas yung evaporation, naiiwan kasi yung mga minerals na yan doon sa lupa. But saline soils, they are not associated with heavy metal contamination. Again, pag heavy metal yan, mine-tailed affected soil yung tawag sa lupa mo. How about saline sodic? So saline sodic soils is similar to your saline soil, but yung specific lang itong saline sodic on high content of sodium. So specific na kapag ang lupa mo is saline sodic, mataas ang sodium content ng lupa, which of course can lead to poor soil structure and reduce plant growth as well. So similarly sa saline soils, nakikita rin ito sa mga areas na masyadong mataas ang evaporation, masyadong mababa yung drainage, and basically drier areas, drier or arid. Last question. What is the most accurate method of assessing soil fertility? So ano yung pinaka-the best or pinaka-accurate, pinaka-tama na method para malaman natin kung ang ating lupa ay fertile? Is it through the method of nutrient deficiency symptom? Is it in the method of field experiment, plant analysis, or soil analysis? So, ang tamang sagot dyan is letter D, soil analysis. Yun yung pinaka-accurate na method para ma-evaluate natin ng maayos kung fertile ba yung lupa or hindi. So, bakit soil analysis? Ang soil analysis kasi, directly, mini-measure mo yung lupa. So, yung lupa, yung basehan ng fertility na gusto nating aralin. And directly, mini-measure natin yan. So, what you do sa soil analysis is kukuha ka talaga ng sample ng lupa and isasubject mo siya into different evaluations or assessment wherein the assessment will now provide a precise assessment or precise quantifiable data kung ano yung mga minerals or nutrient na nasa lupa mo. At the same time, soil analysis is comprehensive. Yung mga test na to is designed to measure a wide range of nutrients and soil properties. So hindi lang nutrients yung tinitignan mo when it comes to soil analysis, it also pertains to the different characteristic of your soil, such as your soil properties, such as soil structure, and others. Okay? So, ang soil analysis rin, it helps in understanding kung ano yung available na nutrient dun sa lupa. It also helps us understand kung ano yung pH ng lupa, ano yung soil texture, and because of that, magagamit natin siya sa pag-i-inform natin sa mga farmers regarding several soil management decisions. So ito yung pinaka-accurate kasi tinitest natin mismo yung lupa. So ano ba yung other forms of assessing yung nutrient content ng lupa? Pwede mo siyang i-assess through nutrient deficiency symptom. So ang nutrient deficiency symptom is an observation-based method of identifying kung ano yung nutrients ng lupa or kung ano yung kulang na nutrients sa lupa. So dito sa method na to, titingnan mo yung halaman and i-identify mo base doon sa symptom na pinapakita ng halaman kung ano yung kulang dun sa lupa. The problem with this is minsan yung symptom naman na pinapakita ng halaman hindi lang naman dahil kulang yung nutrients sa lupa pero baka dahil rin sa other factors like may sakit talaga yung halaman or may peste or some environmental stress. So hindi siya ganun ka-accurate. Ano pa? Field experiment. So experimental approach. Ang gagawin mo, you conduct experiment in the field to observe yung effects ng different treatments doon sa paglaki ng iyong crop growth. Now, yes, magbibigay ito ng valuable information sa kung ano yung possible na nutrient doon sa soil, but it is often time-consuming and at the same time, pwede siyang maapektuhan din ng other variables. So kapag naapektuhan niya ng other variables, hindi mo pwedeng ma-isolate na yung findings ng field experiment mo is only attributed sa soil nutrients na nasa iyong soil. How about plant analysis? Ano yung gagawin mo dyan? So, para malaman daw yung nutrient na nasa soil mo, kukuha ka ng halaman, kukunin mo yung plant, isa-subject mo yung tissue ng halaman na yon into some analysis para makita yung nutrient levels doon sa halaman. So, the assumption is, kung ano yung nutrient levels na nasa halaman, yun din yung nutrient level na nasa soil. But then again, limitado lang to, hindi to accurate kasi hindi naman yung soil ang mismong tinitest mo. Yung halaman na nakatinim doon sa soil na yon. Maaari kasi na yung nutrients na nandun sa halaman ay hindi directly related doon sa nutrient na nasa soil. But basically, other environmental factors like, kumare, yung pag-absorb ng halaman ng nutrient na nasa lupa can affect. So for example, yung halaman mo, may sakit yung kanyang root system, so hindi siya nakakapag-absorb, let's say, ng nitrogen ng maayos. Mayaman naman sa nitrogen yung lupa mo. Pero dahil hindi maayos yung absorption niya ng nitrogen, and then sinubject mo sa plant analysis yung halaman na yon, nag-conclude ka na, ay, hindi, mababa yung nitrogen ng lupa ko kasi walang masyadong nitrogen yung aking halaman. Pero hindi mo naisip na, ay, yung halaman ko kasi hindi siya masyadong nakakapag-absorb ng nitrogen. So, the conclusion now is wrong because of that. So, ang pinakatamang sagot, yung pinaka-accurate talaga na method of identifying yung fertility ng yung soil is through soil analysis.